So, I didn't actually watch a lot of series. I guess it was a good amount of content, but I'll talk about why things get complicated as they go along, because some of it is amusing, some of it is an interesting aside. But let's begin with the first thing. Tales of the Abyss. I decided, actually I probably started talking about it last week, saying that I was going to watch all of Tales of the Abyss, and I just started watching, and I finally finished it, and it pretty much went where I thought it was, like I said last week, where you can kind of tell it's a bit obvious, where the main character is obviously very immature, and it's set up in such a way where you know that they're setting it up so that he becomes a more mature person and grows, and that wasn't too bad. Maybe there's a potential to feel like it was done a bit cheaply, maybe, but, you know, I think a lot of things in that anime almost kind of feel like that because it's... I mean, I haven't played the original Tales of the Abyss, but my guess would be that it was a standard JRPG sort of game. Maybe like a Final Fantasy game as opposed to Dragon Warrior or something like that. Dragon Quest. And if that's the case, well, I guess in either of those cases, you know, if it's anything like that, it kind of is understandable the way a lot of it is set up, since you can see places where there's like dungeons and probably more powerful boss monsters that they fought at earlier stages in the game, and things like that are the Tales of the Abyss equivalent to running into the Turks in Final Fantasy VII, I would guess. So I can see a lot of similarities there just from the story of Tales of the Abyss, the anime, and I'm going to take a guess that some of what may make the anime a bit weaker is that the way things kind of flow are maybe similar to how you might expect them to flow in the game, I guess, and the presentation style is... I think there's a disconnect you can feel there. I get the impression that I felt something like that. It's sort of like, I actually can't give an example without spoiling it pretty badly, so I guess I can't explain it, but there's that feeling while watching it, going through that. I don't think it's entirely too bad. I mean, for some people, maybe that would make it insufferable, and it's really hard to predict. But for me, I thought it was okay going through it. Maybe not something that I would be super excited watching again, but not something that I disliked so much that I wouldn't watch again. Overall, an interesting story, and kind of makes me wonder how it was presented in the original game instead, but at this point, I pretty much already know everything that's going to happen, so it may be kind of hard to get myself to play it in the first place with so much unwatched anime in my plate. Oh well. So, after Tales of the Abyss, you know, I managed to finish that right at the exact moment the friend came over on Thursday. That was the same day that my copy of Puella, Magi, Madoka, Magica arrived, and our plan was to actually, well, okay, so we play things by ear, but the idea was we could probably watch that. You know, I put it on, he'd start watching it with me. It was only 4 episodes, we could finish all of it, and so I kind of went into there a little unsure what the anime would be like for me, because I've had such ridiculously high expectations of it for a long time. I mean, the score is high, and it sounds like it's right within the category of things that I would like, and I'm already dusting off a spot on my top favorites list where it's going to sit once I finish it and decide whether or not it's going to actually go there. But, you know, things like that, and on top of that, you know, people on the internet can't always keep their mouth shut. So I actually knew a couple of potentially spoilerific things, and I was a bit worried that going into it, it would probably lose some of its effectiveness, but much to my surprise, it blew my mind. And this was just the first 4 episodes, mind you. Basically, after that, we both just knew we weren't going to be able to watch anything else. After we just watched a bunch of dorkly bit shorts from their website because, you know, our minds couldn't comprehend anything else after that. We were just, our minds were blown. And all day Friday, I was pretty much exactly the same. I'd like to say that Saturday and Sunday, I was also the same. But the truth of the matter is, I had something else on my mind then, and that's the other interesting thing. But it was a complicated weekend, but I did manage to watch one anime over it, and that was Akira. In this case, I got to watch the Blu-ray version. It's really hard to say that the video quality is necessarily superior, because when I put Akira on, sometimes I just can't help getting lost in what's happening. I mean, my appreciation for Akira will probably be even more obvious in the very near future. But basically, I was watching it as part of something that our DVD collection subreddit at Reddit was doing, a movie night where we all, people who want to join and watch it at the same time as everybody else try and get their own copy of the DVD. We log on, and maybe some people have webcam recordings of themselves while they're watching it, but we're not trying to broadcast it to anybody. The basic idea being, we all watch it, and then I kind of scratch my head wondering why nobody else understood it as well. Maybe coming up with a couple of strange ideas, but for the most part, to be honest, I was mostly watching it trying to reevaluate the Pioneer dub. Because, alright, when I first started watching Akira, it was with the older Streamline dub. And I only know those names for the two dubs, even though I think there's alternative names for both of them. But the basic idea is, I think maybe there's a couple parts in the Pioneer dub that I'm not that sure about, but I thought it was fine watching it the second time finally. And I can accept showing that version of it to people. This makes me really want to go back and watch the Streamline dub and see if that changes my opinion at all, but at this point, well, actually I guess I'm going to get that option kind of soon, and I'll probably talk to y'all about why that is maybe next week or the week after. You will know, and that one's a kind of interesting thing. But, so I did that Saturday night, and that was the only thing I watched all weekend, so you may wonder why I didn't watch anything else, and the truth of the matter is that Sunday, I actually had a 10-hour concealed handgun license training course. And that was an interesting experience, but of course that takes most of the entire day. You come home. I actually wasn't really tired at all until I got home, and then it was just, I don't want to do anything at all. And Saturday ended up being mostly eaten up, partially because in the evening there was the Akira thing, and also because of the time I spent preparing for that. There were just a couple of things that I didn't have at all, and I didn't know how much food I would be wanting to eat if I was there for 10 hours, and if I was getting bored, maybe wanting to snack on apples or some sandwiches I made in advance. So, and I also had to prepare my lunches for the week in advance, so I ended up doing a lot of cooking on Saturday after doing a little bit of shopping with my friend. Which basically meant that all my weekend I only got to watch the one movie, and I didn't even get to play Skyward Sword, although when I was in the gaming mood, I was playing Toho 12.3 for no reason. Oh well, that's all a bunch of babbling, and last night I finally got the chance to do something with the time, and this is the final thing I watched for anime analysis. I watched both hentai versions of Kite at the same time. Now, this is in anticipation for the Blu-ray release at the end of the month. I want to be able to watch that and definitively say which version, or if I don't watch it, then at least peek at it and be able to tell y'all, oh yeah, it's the director's cut, or yeah, it's the same video as the special edition. And so in order to do that, I put the special edition on the TV, and at the same time had the director's cut on my computer, and I was syncing them up using the pause features and watching them. It was actually pretty straightforward to compare the two. The biggest difficulty was actually that the special edition shows Kite in its original 2-episode format, whereas the director's cut version merged them together into one long video. And that's actually the only source of the time difference as far as I can tell. I mean, there are a couple other little things, but they're related to that. Things like the credits being faster on the director's cut because it's all the English titles, whereas the English credits were added on afterwards in a separate chapter, basically, or separate titles. I don't remember what those are called. And the opening was a little quicker on the director's cut version as well. But I kept things in sync, and actually, scene for scene, they were almost exactly the same. The only differences being 2 sex scenes in particular. And the first one is 6 or 7 minutes into the director's cut, and the other one is the final sex scene. And I guess the basic idea is that our main character, Sawa, they wanted us to know that her sexual relation with the character has been going on since he took her in when she was younger. And I think that they wanted us to understand that it was still going on while removing some of the more explicit imagery from that. And that's basically all they did, was they didn't cut those out. They covered them up basically with other related scenes from the intercourse that was currently going on. And some of it actually made things maybe slightly more confusing, but nothing too bad. The thing that really confuses me is I don't entirely understand. Well, I can kind of understand why they wanted to do this, because, you know, her being younger, I'm not sure how much younger she was. I think they might have said in the anime at some point, but I got the impression that, well, just looking at it, that it just looked like a slightly smaller version of herself. It didn't look particularly bad. In fact, I wouldn't have known that she was underage if you had told me. Unless you had told me, basically. So, it's very strange. And I could see it maybe in the first one, the first scene, that one's probably edited out okay, where it lets you know, oh, that stuff happened, but the second scene, if that changed anything, it may have just been that those were things that were kind of flashing in her head at the time, maybe, or something like that. And that could maybe slightly change her motivation. Maybe. I wouldn't call it for sure yes or no. One thing I need to do is I need to rewatch the non-hentai version. And there's actually, I bet that's right here. There's actually 2 releases for this that I want to check out, because they have different time differences on them. This is the remastered version of Kite, and this is one of the older releases, and I want to see what's different. And then I'll eventually watch Kite Liberator. That's in really near future. Well, maybe not right now. And then while I'm at it, you know, once I have an idea of how it's all different, I'll be able to more accurately talk about the Blu-ray release once that comes out. So, here's hoping everything goes as planned. That does come out, and yeah. Otherwise, we'll just have to see what I watch this week.